And too many people in today's world are not putting anything aside for taxes or tithing or saving, and they're just seeing the $5,000 come in every month and asking themselves, where can I spend it next? And that's where we find a lot of people, is that they've gone too long thinking about their books and not taking any action, and they find themselves in a state of worry, a state of panic, especially around tax time. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Know Your Numbers REI podcast. This is your host, Chris McCormack, and I'm excited to bring you this episode today. If you're new to the show, we are focused on equipping real estate investors with the information they need to feel confident with their decisions around the year and not be hit with an unexpected tax bill at year end. And today we're really going to be diving into the importance of profit. And if you are familiar with the topic of Profit First, that's what we're going to be talking about. And the author of Profit First, Mike McCallowicks, describes it in an analogy for toothpaste, right? I'm sure you're familiar with the fact of a toothpaste that is close to empty, but there's still a couple more squeezes that you can get out of it, right? We all work so hard to get the most out of our toothpaste, and even if it's close to finish, we will still squeeze the heck out of that thing and get what's left. And Mike offers the hypothesis that our finances are no different, right? If we see that we have $5,000 in the bank this month, we are going to do what we can to use that $5,000 to provide us with everything. And we will use all of that $5,000 according to this research. And in my life, I've seen this come true not only for myself and my spouse, but also for our clients, right? We recommend the first thing that you should do outside of giving back to God, because we approach finances in a biblical standpoint and we know that the first tenth goes back to Him. You should also put money aside. And you've probably heard the idea of living off of 50% of your income. The wealthiest people in the world, that is one of the things that they hold to, is living off of 50% of your income. And we have started to instill that in our lives. And there's times where it can get uncomfortable, because you're putting 30% away for taxes, you're tithing 10%, you're saving 10% for opportunities, and then there's 50% left for you to go and live off of. But what we have found is that this is how our brains operate. This is what makes things work. And too many people in today's world are not putting anything aside for taxes or tithing or saving, and they're just seeing the $5,000 come in every month and asking themselves, where can I spend it next? Where can I spend it next? Where can I spend it next? When in reality, if they put 1,000 of that away for whatever it is, whether it's giving or saving, and they were left with 4,000, they would do the same thing with the 4,000, and the 1,000 would now be away and saved as opposed to spent. So really the idea is that you spend what you have, and when you go in and look at your bank account, your brain triggers something that says, okay, I have this much money I can spend. I'm either safe or I need to be a little bit more frugal with it and faithful over that. So if you're putting money aside, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 50% of your income aside for things like giving, taxes, and investing, then that 50% that you have left over will be used to the best potential, the fullest potential. You will get the most out of that money that you have set aside. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, Chris, that's great, but how am I supposed to live off of 50% when I can barely live off of 100%? I would first encourage you to take small steps, right? It's like anything. If you are looking to get in shape, you're not going to go out and sign up for a marathon a week from now. You are going to say, okay, I will work out tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday, and that will be a successful week. I will ease into it with the idea that I will continue to increase my capacity and grow into greater workout regimens. But for now, if I'm going to couch to marathon, like, we need to ease into this, and we can't plan for the marathon to be just a week away. And it's the same thing with your finances, right? If you're spending 100% or maybe even more than 100% of what you're making, ease into that. Cut back, start saying, okay, we're not going to use more than what we have. We're going to put 5% aside for saving this month, and then we're going to live off of 95%. And then continue to check in with yourself week after week, month after month, and have the goal of living off of 50% of that income, right? When I got started, I was not implementing this to the fullest extent. I would put 10% aside because I knew in that first year I wasn't going to be in the highest tax. I was kind of scraping the surface and still needed cash to live off of. And then as things grew, then Jasmine and I sat down and discussed, okay, how much should we be putting aside for taxes? How much should we be putting aside for saving? And how can we make the most out of what we have left over? And it has grown to now we're living off of 50%. We put 30% aside for taxes. We put 10% aside for savings. We give the first 10% and it works out well. You know, one thing I realized is like you cut yourself off from diving into what is saved. And now you say, okay, well, I need to go and provide more. I need to go and be more fruitful. I need to go and create more value so that we have more money to then fund our immediate needs. And we do recommend this with our clients. You know, you might even be familiar with Dave Ramsey, who's big on getting people out of debt. And one of the things he recommends is the envelope strategy, you know, because he grew up in a time where they were focused more on cash. And so he says, okay, you get $5,000 a month. You're going to put 500 of that in an envelope for savings, 500 of that in an envelope for debt pay down, 300 of that in an envelope for groceries and restaurants and yada, yada, yada. But the idea is that when you have it set aside and you say, this is what we're using it for, then you are more strict with yourself and you find a way to stay within that bubble, within that envelope, within that account balance. And so in today's day, it's more of setting up separate accounts, right? We had a client a couple months ago who was doing this pretty religiously, pretty solidly. He was able to get paid, and then he had an account for operating expenses, an account for taxes, an account for owner's pay, an account for profit, and that's how he operated his business. And he was a 1099 individual making his own income, and when he saw that some accounts were lower than they needed to be, he knew that it was time to put the gas up and start making more money so that he can invest more in his advertising, in his profit, in his owner's draw accounts, whatever it is, but setting it up in this type of system so that you have specific categories, specific accounts. It's restrictive, but it's also freedom because you're able to say, okay, I have $10,000 in the operating account. I can't invest in this $12,000 ad campaign, or I have $10,000. I can invest $8,000 in this ad campaign, you know, rather than going and putting the $12,000 on a credit card, knowing that you only have $10,000 and having to worry about how you're going to pay off that credit card bill, right? Jocko Willink says discipline equals freedom, and this is a way to bring discipline into your financial life, and it will bring freedom because you have the peace of mind knowing that your dollars are accounted for and that you are able to go and do what you can with what dollars are there. And if you don't have enough dollars, it's time to go make some more dough. So if you're listening to this and you're caught off guard, maybe you're a little worried because you don't have it all together. Maybe you don't even have books set up. Maybe you don't even have a bank account set up. I think step one is taking that step and getting a business bank account. But before you do that, I would even recommend talking with a qualified professional, right? We go to doctors when we have needs for our medical issues, and finances should be no different, right? For some reason, we have it within our mind that we have to do all the financial challenges on our own, but quite literally, there are people who master these things, who study these things, who have a gifting to understand these things in a way that other people do not. And so I would encourage you to go and seek out these type of people because it will change your life, right? People who are in debt know that Dave Ramsey is someone who can help them get out of debt. They know that if they get his book, follow his radio, check out his social media, and even sign up for his programs, they're going to be better off. But it's taking that step to really meet with his team and have a sense of accountability, right? Because part of this too is the accountability factor, right? Jasmine and I do it together, and we know that when we're doing it, like we can hold each other accountable, right? I know that if there's even a temptation to dive into the tax fund or the emergency fund or whatever the fund is, then that's a discussion that we have together, and we're gonna weigh all costs and benefits of doing so. And the same is for you when you sign up with a qualified professional who knows how money works, knows the psychology behind money, and how you can get better use out of the money that you have and that you're bringing in. And even more than that, it just frees up the time that you have focusing on this, right? Because as business owners, as real estate investors, you're busy acquiring more properties, talking to realtors, talking to brokers, finding financing. You don't need to be worried about your books on top of all that. And that's where we find a lot of people is that they've gone too long thinking about their books and not taking any action. And they find themselves in a state of worry, a state of panic, especially around tax time. But we strongly urge you to get this taken care of before tax time and find somebody who's qualified, find somebody who is in the industry, who knows what they're doing, who is going to recommend things like this to benefit you, benefit your family, benefit others, and help you increase your own personal economy so that you don't have to have the stress of it hanging over your head. And by the time taxes roll around, you already have a big pocket of money that you can go into because you've been planning ahead, right? We see so many clients who are like, we need to go on payment plans because we don't have the $25,000 or $50,000 that the IRS is knocking for. And it's unfortunate because a lot of times, had they planned ahead, that would have been brought down. But even more so, it's unfortunate because they don't have the money. Now they're going in debt to the US government, and those interest rates that they charge are not fun. I think I saw recently it's upwards of 7%, which is no bueno, and really can be completely avoided if you find the right advice, if you take accountability, and you understand that money is no different than the toothpaste in the container. All this to say, there is a way that you can set yourself up for success in the business and investing world. A lot of it comes down to just having the right systems in place, whether it's accounting, bookkeeping, whether it's financial stewardship, whether it's planning for taxes. It is a systems game, and it's finding the right people who have the systems that you can implement so that you are not constantly stressed about where that next paycheck's coming from, about how you're going to get that financing, about how you're going to pay for those taxes. You know, these are the concerns that everyone has, but the more we talk about it, the more we implement, and the more we hold ourselves accountable, we can fix them in no time. So if you're listening to this and want the help and are looking for a solid accounting team focused on real estate who can really help you get more for less, reach out to Better Books. Our website and our pre-screening questionnaire are in the show notes, and we would love to get in touch with you and have a member of our team help you out and release the burden of accounting and taxes and finances from your shoulders today. Until next time, I wish you nothing but the best. God bless you all. I appreciate you, and we will talk soon.